What makes it special? What's the approach?
Well, it's based on an ontological model, which people always go, what the heck does that mean? Well, if you think about the science of being, the state of being, think about your state of your mind, which is your thoughts and your dreams. This is about ontology, the state of being. So how you're being and how that relates to you realizing your goals and dreams, and even finding out what you are here to do in this life and how you might serve others.
Hello, welcome to EdTech Leaders. Today we have Tom LeNoble, the CEO of Academy for Coaching Excellence. Tom is also the host of Opening Pathways podcast and has his own personal coaching and consulting practice. Welcome, Tom.
Hello, Oliver. It's great to be with you today.
Thank you. So let's talk about Academy for Coaching Excellence, ACE. Academy for Coaching Excellence has a personal training program course, and you also train coaches, correct?
I do. Well, the Academy for Coaching Excellence has been in business for well over 20 years. I took the coursework back in the late 90s when coaching was not such a great word to use in the corporate environment, but I used the skills I learned anyway. And fast forward, that became an ICF certified Level 2 Academy, which gives us not only the ability to certify coaches, but also to offer CEUs to coaches that are certified, which they need to do each year. And we train coaches all around the world. It's a rigorous program that's lots of fun and very engaging and quite transformative.
Actually, let's take it back, and then we'll circle back to some of the details about coaching. You have experience. You worked at Walmart and Palm and Facebook, running customer service and support for those companies, basically, correct?
Yes, and a little HR here and there as well.
So how does that experience inform what you do now? And maybe we're going to pause in that story a little bit to take a moment when 19-year-old Mark Zuckerberg, you walk into a meeting with him. And what was that like?
Well, it's a great story. I was sitting at my desk at Palm, and I ran global service operations for them, and it was great. I had a corporate staff and traveling around the world, and the phone rang. And I answered it, and they said, "This is a recruiter from Facebook." And I listened and thanked them and wished them well. At the time, I had no idea what Facebook was. And then I got a phone call from a buddy who had said, "I referred you to Facebook," and you kind of just didn't talk to them. And I said, "Well, you could have told me you did that, and what's Facebook?" But long story short, I went and interviewed, decided to re-engage. And in my suit, I walked up a set of stairs. They were located over a sandwich shop in Palo Alto in a very small office. And as I walked up in my suit, I came around a corner to a graffiti art of women's breasts all over the walls, came around the corner to see a small group of people, all young enough to be my child, with a few liquor bottles, was escorted to a room where there was a sofa and a TV, and soon Mark showed up, and he was 19 at the time in his signature t-shirt, shorts, and sandals that he wore back then, and all I could think of was I need to take something off. And he kicked off his sandals, sat on the couch, and said, "Come talk to me." So I took off my jacket. And Mark and I had an engaging conversation, and I became really interested in the product. I had this feeling there was something big happening, and fascinated by the willingness of people to share information.
Of the users to share information.
Yes, people willing on this platform of how they were sharing everything about what they did, about what they thought. And yes, there was a little of that going on out there, but not far and wide at the time, and it was still in colleges. So at the moment, it was, at least for Facebook, still a college app.
That was really transformative when you think about it now, because we're so used to sharing everything, or at least seeing other people share everything, even if not all of us do. But it's become so much a part of the culture. But back then, it was a bit alien.
It was, especially if you were a little older. And as I shared with you, I quickly realized I was old enough to be everybody's father. I didn't share that with anybody at the time. And I subsequently took a big risk and left Palm and went to work for Facebook. I remember my first day arriving in the office to a huge room. I had come from my private office, and I'm in this huge room with a group of people sitting at tables where I have two of my reports sitting with me, and wondering, okay, what have I done? And on my second day, I finally said to one of them, where are the phones? And the reply was, phones? We don't want to talk to anybody. We only use email. Well, I had spent a career in customer service. I knew somebody was going to talk on the phone to someone, and I realized at that moment it would likely be me.
So you're coming from a more established company, Palm, and then you had been at Walmart, having their corporate structures, and then going to Facebook. How do you strategize dealing with a completely different environment?
Well, I was really fortunate because back in the day when I worked for MCI years ago, for your viewers who might even know what that is, that went through the WorldCom debacle and now is part of Verizon, it was still in a kind of a startup mode. And then Walmart was great because I actually worked for Walmart.com. And it was in the early days, and while I spent far too much of my life in Bentonville, Arkansas, it was still a building and creating environment. I had customer service centers in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and other places that I had to manage. And then quickly I got engaged with Walmart because they needed someone with domain experience and service. And then Palm, the outsource model, was around the world. But then I arrived in Facebook, and I'm in a room with, I think at the time I had 8 people on the team, and all email. And it was going to be a very different environment. But I looked at it as, this is like a really nice challenge, and I love building and growing, and I, again, was just fascinated. And boy, what a ride that was.
So then in the 90s, you take a course with the person who started Academy for Coaching Excellence?
Yes, going backwards, back in the late 90s, the course was called You and Money. And I thought it was a great hook, and I can remember telling a friend about it, and got engaged with what they were talking about. And Dr. Maria Nemeth, a psychologist, had started and founded and created all the work, and it was fascinating. I ended up doing all of the coursework, which was 4 or 5 courses, and then working with her as other courses were led. And that work became one of the foundations of my work in my corporate environment, because I always worked with people, but this way of coaching added a new dimension of how you serve people and care for people beyond just getting the job done, but how they feel about it, how they're empowered to do it, how they grow into do it, how you talk about what maybe their goals and dreams are for the future. And I went about my corporate career, and later that coaching model turned into what we now know as the Coaching Academy, the Academy for Coaching Excellence.
Could you talk about it a little bit, about what makes it special? What's the approach?
Well, it's based on an ontological model, which people always go, what the heck does that mean? Well, if you think about the science of being, the state of being, think about your state of your mind, which is your thoughts and your dreams. This is about ontology, the state of being. So how you're being and how that relates to you realizing your goals and dreams, and even finding out what you are here to do in this life and how you might serve others. It's quite transformative. The basic course is Mastering Your Life. You learn some very interesting things about yourself, like your basic assumption, which is something based on a fight, flight, or freeze response, and standards of integrity. And that course is the basis of a few tracks that you can take. One, a coaching path that leads to being coach, advanced coaching, the coaching training program, getting certified, and even a licensed academy trainer, which you get licensed to teach it. Or people take that course and take a leadership track that they might use in business. And then, as I said earlier, the one that people can come and do just to get CEUs to keep their certification.
Can you give me a specific example of, let's say, approaching a problem from maybe a more traditional psychological approach versus an ontological approach?
Well, if you think about the psychology of something, often psychology is interested in what happened to you, what happened when you were 5, or what happened in your last relationship. Ontology is more focused on how you are being presently and how that relates to getting what you desire.
So maybe what would your ideal way of being be, and then you take action? Is that
Yes,
it?
yes. We like to say small steps, sweet small steps can yield big leaps. And in my own personal practice, I talk about something called the haystack method. We all talk about finding a needle in the haystack. And for me, it's quite simple. You remove the hay. My job is not to know your answers. I think you know your answers. It's how do I hold the space to remove your hay?
Well, how in the world does someone do that with a million emails, distractions, social media, commitments? How does someone take the first step sometimes through removing the hay?
Well, I find that sometimes we do those things either to an extreme, in excess, or we're not using them wisely. Sometimes in our day we've not thought about how much rest we need. Are we standing up and stretching every now and then? And it shows up in how you work with people. So I know I find that often people who are having a challenge with people that report to them, or maybe how they feel about getting ahead, they're in their own way. They're blocking what they might be able to achieve by either how they're being, some of their behaviors, or not seeing the possibility of what can happen and what things might be replaced or shifted or changed.
That's great. So tell me about, you joined as CEO after the company had been around for a while. And what made you do that?
It's a great story, Oliver, that I'll share with your viewers. It's sort of sad and also wonderful. I had a dear friend of 36 years who died unexpectedly, and she was doing some work with the academy as part of her coaching and consulting business. And Dr. Maria Nemeth, and I happened to run into each other at her services. And while we had stayed in contact all those years, we like to say Carol conspired to bring us together. And it started by, I learned a little bit about what was going on at the academy and offered to do a needs analysis for them, which I did, and turned into a project called Accelerate ACE, which I led for them, that led to me being the CEO. And I think the biggest thing that happened is I, with my past, especially operations and HR experience, brought in some business rigor to the academy. Very successful, but some ways to look at things to possibly be more not only efficient, but how do we use some of the tools that are available beyond just the creativity of the content and teaching.
So how has it grown since you've been there?
It's really exciting. I have to first say that I'm the luckiest guy. I have the best team. They really are amazing. And so we grew. We added some resource to the team, added 3 new people, started a whole marketing launch, a big marketing campaign, drove to not only fill the courses to be completely full, but adding courses, looking at elective courses we could do. And one of my fond things that we did is they had never had a review process, so people are trying to find out where they want to be and how they can get ahead without this tool in place. So in doing it, we looked at it and said, well, why don't we take an ontological approach to the review? I'm not so big on doing cookie cutter or standardized things, and so we looked at it from that perspective of how are you being in this position, and where are you looking to go, and how we could use our own tools in that process.
Mm-hmm. As employees of the company.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so talk about marketing for a bit. So what have you done that has worked?
Well, I brought in an outside company to focus on marketing. And we've been running, we never really had advertising before. The academy worked really well on word of mouth. And I remember back in the day when I took it, there were waiting lists of people. After I became working with Maria, there were waiting lists. People would say, we'll pay you double, just let us in. And, word of mouth is a magnificent way because people are already enrolled for the most part. But over time, you want to build more, you want to grow, there's other ways. So that's why I chose to bring in a marketing company. And we've been doing everything from running ads to beefing up our online presence. And one thing that I really like is we're using the team, the people, especially the 2 people that lead the courses, in the ads. So people are really getting in touch with the people that they will be actually in the room with going through the coursework. It was just fascinating. When I took it, it was in person. And I remember long before I got there that at the pandemic, they went to Zoom. And I remember thinking to myself, this is just not possible to get the same result of what happens in this course, which is quite profound, on Zoom. I couldn't imagine it. And I had 2 people that I was talking to that I had always wanted to take this coursework. And as fate would have it, they ended up in the same course, not by design. And I was reluctant because I knew they were going to take it on Zoom. Well, I started getting little messages from them, and I'm thinking, oh, something going on here. But after it was over and I spoke with them individually, I saw that same reaction that I saw when people were in the room, and I knew there was something they had done really well to capture it. And then since being there, I've seen how they've adapted and used Zoom, and it's great because we can reach more people. It's more cost effective for people and the company because you don't have to travel. And it's been really, really great. In fact, now I'm looking at how do we actually do something to bring people together face to face again? I think we're all wrestling with that a little bit of how do we get out from the little box to interacting again. And so we're looking at something that we might do with that, with regional hubs, with the coaches and different things that we can grow with. So it's been quite exciting to watch all that happen.
Well, it's great. Yeah, the in-person and remote can help feed each other, can't they?
Yes.
And do you have videos as well?
Yes. Yeah, there's we do webinars, of course, as part of the marketing, but we have webinars to educate people on what we're doing. We have a whole enrollment admissions team, so we do something when you're interested, you sign up for an interest chat and we talk to you about it and walk you through what everything's going to happen and begin the enrollment process all the way through signing up. And then our community is quite vibrant. We work with them often. We have elective courses that we do. One's coming up, in fact, just a few weeks, called Befriending Your Body, that Dr. Maria still teaches, and another one called Mastering your life and life's work and purpose, which is really interesting for people to learn on a bigger level from I'm a bookkeeper, I'm an executive, what their real purpose in life is. I remember when I took it, and my life's work and purpose was I am an inspirator. I inspire others to take action.
Did you always know that?
You know, I knew it, but didn't know what to call it. And I remember in that sweet little 2-day course, when it happened, it was as if something I had put on a garment that was my favorite garment and I never wanted to take off again.
So what happened when you discovered that?
It was much like when I discovered the basic assumption. Things you look back in your life that had occurred started falling in order and making more sense about a pattern or why things happened that way. But more importantly, how could I use that in my service to others and to better myself?
How did you? What changed?
I think in my coaching practice, I became more aware of how I use inspiring others to do things and how to do it more effectively. I started realizing that I do that with friends. I do that with strangers. One of my favorite stories as of late is one of my favorite restaurants in San Francisco. There's a bus person there that I watched, and I finally asked him one day, "Why aren't you a server? I watch you, you do everything but take the order." And he started giving me all these reasons why he couldn't do it. He was too shy, which I could see wasn't true. I might be making too much money and then I'll be a server forever. But as I explored this with this guy, I found out a few things. One, he was 19. He was a pilot. He was studying to be a pilot, was already flying planes by himself. So as time went on, I had talked to him, and they had already offered him the service job a few times to be the server. And so he came to me one day and said, "Tom, they offered it to me again." And, I said, "Well, what'd you do?" And he said, I got to tell him no, I just can't do it. And so I suggested, why don't you just ask him if you can do a couple shifts and see how it feels? And we talked a little bit more, and through that inspiration of the possibility of what could happen, he's a server today. His pilot training is on overdrive because now he can afford to do it and do it on time and not have to worry about raising the money for it. And the best part is I get to watch him serving people and how wonderful he is at it. I love being able to see things in people that they might not realize is there with the possibility of what they could achieve. Whether it's that bus person in my favorite restaurant or a CEO that's having a complex problem about how to grow or how to manage something difficult in the company. Or a lot of times I work with people personally who have been laid off. And what I notice is they have one foot in the future, one foot in what happened. Well, all you've got to do is go outside and position your feet that way. You're not going to get very far.
It sounds like a gift, not only to them, but to yourself.
It is my favorite thing in life is to be of service to others.
It's wonderful. What do you see for the company in the next 6 months? What are your hopes? What are your goals?
Well, the marketing campaign, I'm so pleased with the company I chose, and it's generating plenty of these interest calls. So we've already added another course. We have them every few months, and we've added an additional one. We're now in the process of, which is a very intensive process to train course leaders, of developing them. The people that we hired have their own coaching practice, went through all of our programs. We're even getting people that have their own coaching offerings that are coming to us and asking to partner with us, and how we might help them work collaboratively on launching what they're working on. And the License Academy Trainer program of people that are licensed to teach part of it, of being able to work with them and help them be successful. You know, these things are, I see them as a big circle. You know, you feed other people and you tend to get fed, and it starts a nice process of everyone getting a better experience and growing. And in return, you grow.
That's great. Are there specific challenges right now that you're facing and trying to figure out how to overcome?
You know, I think that our biggest challenge comes from we're all really busy, and like any business, we end up having a fire drill. And any of us that have worked, especially in startups, we know the fire drills can immobilize you if not managed well. And I think in putting in this business rigor of looking how much these fire drills cost, and how to look at them almost as you would a post-mortem of a technical outage, of what can we do better? How can we look at these better, not only from when they happen, but getting in front of them in our work to avoid them from happening. So that's one big challenge we're working on. We also have a scholarship program. It's called Empowered Together. So I'm very proud that I was one of the initial funders to help get it off the ground. And we work with a nonprofit clearinghouse that allows people to donate, and we're able to use that money to offer scholarships that's really for people that want to be coaches that would never be able to afford it, but they've demonstrated that they can really excel in it. And it's typically in communities where there wouldn't be a whole lot of coaching, where it's sort of great. Not only are you serving the people and becoming coaches, but they then are serving communities that can really benefit from the coaching, not only individuals, but companies. So the Empowered Together is one of the things we're really working on, and how do we develop that, get more donations to be able to offer more scholarships.
That's wonderful. That's a good challenge.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really great.
My delight. I've really enjoyed it, Oliver. And for any of your viewers that want to know about us, we're at the Academy for Coaching Excellence, or they can get in touch with me at tomlenoble.com. And I'd love to hear from them.
That's great. And the website is acecoaching.com, correct?
acecoachtraining.com.
acecoachtraining.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And tomlenoble.com for your
And
site.
tomlenoble.com is mine. Yes. I'm a coach, a professional speaker, and I have a book coming out soon. It just actually went to the publisher today, which is quite exciting. And
What's the title?
My Life in Business Suits, Hospital Gowns, and High Heels.
That is great. Well, thanks again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Oliver.